Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Beware the Board, a horror podcast where we watch a randomly selected horror movie every week. I'm Bob.
And I'm Ben.
Oh, God.
How you doing, Bob?
Okay. Oh, thank God. I'm good. Yeah, I'm fine, man. I thought you were going to keep up with a bit that you haven't done in a couple episodes, and I was going to get really angry.
That's
at the
not
start
true.
of the
I do that
podcast.
bit at the beginning of every episode.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time I close my eyes when I do the intro.
I know. That's why you never tell.
Yeah. Anyway, how are you?
How you been, Ben? That's your thing.
Yeah. How
I'm doing okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Better
That's
than
good.
you. If you
Maybe.
can tell.
I mean, look, I've been very busy lately. I'm moving soon, so I've been packing
You mean you
a lot.
have been very busy?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I said.
I think you said I haven't been very
I
busy.
said I've been very busy
Oh, well.
because I'm moving soon, and I had to get a car, and I've been paying these people so I could move. It's been a whole thing. Paying them so I can move it was a whole debacle. I swear to God.
Bob doesn't have a real bank account.
No, I have a real bank account. It exists. I get paid through it,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
but it was a whole thing.
Okay. Well, do you have any news you'd like to share this week?
Fuck.
I'm going to take that as a no.
Do you?
I don't think so.
There's definitely something I wanted to talk about on this episode, but I forgot.
You sent me a thing about the Friday the 13th TV show.
Oh, I did send you that. Yeah, I didn't read it because I don't want things spoiled.
So I don't know much about it. I just knew it was in production.
Yeah.
It's called. Let me check this link again. It's called Crystal Lake.
Yeah, it's A24, right?
It's A24, and it's from the creator of Hannibal. It says on the poster. Now my question is, which creator of Hannibal?
I don't know. I
Because
literally have no idea.
one of the people who's responsible for Hannibal is also responsible for the Child's Play series,
Like the TV show or like the movies?
all of it.
Oh, okay.
It's one of the main guys.
Okay. Well, that'd be really sick to see him do a Crystal Lake show. Actually, maybe he can bring some continuity to this weird Friday the 13th timeline.
Nah.
Those episodes haven't come out yet. You'll see on those episodes, people, things get out of hand really fast.
I think they get out of hand just how fast they need to.
I don't think so. I swear to God, the movie that we watched most recently for that might be the worst film I've ever seen in my life. Or maybe the most...
You're so excited to begin with, too.
I don't want to spoil what episode number that is, but we've recorded pretty late into that series at this point. And there's one where I just lost my marbles.
It was fun. Bob didn't have a fun time.
No.
I didn't have a fun time.
I don't think anyone had a fun time.
Okay, no, it's Brian Fuller.
Okay.
I was wondering if it was Don Mancini, but it's not.
So it's not Tom Holland.
No, but Brian Fuller's also responsible for Pushing Daisies, which is a very old show that only had 2 seasons, but it was very good way back in the day.
That's actually good to know. Someone who has a pretty good track record when it comes to making a show.
Well, he also did Hannibal, which is also very good.
I know what Hannibal is, but I've never seen it.
Do you know what it is?
He eats people.
Right. Do you know what he's from?
Silence of the Lambs.
Okay, good for you.
Yeah.
He's also done Star Trek Discovery,
Didn't know that.
American Gods.
I've heard American Gods is pretty good.
Pushing Daisy's really good. I like that one.
Okay.
It looks really weird though. Admittedly, it's very saturated. I guess. It's not as insane as a Wes Anderson thing, but it's got a vibe to it.
Okay.
But the premise is this guy, he can touch dead people and they come back to life, but if he touches them again, they die.
Oh no.
Well, they just return to being dead. The issue being is I think if they're returned to life for more than I think it's a minute, something else dies.
Oh no.
Because it switches.
That sucks. That's a pretty cool concept.
It's a really cool concept. He makes pies. That's his job. He's a pie man, which I think is very funny. But cool TV show. It was canceled after 2 seasons. Kind of sad.
Damn, that sucks.
But I mean, it maybe will be good.
I hope it's good.
Maybe.
I really, really hope it's good because we haven't finished Friday the 13th. Those haven't all come out, but also we haven't recorded all of them yet. I like it. It's pretty fun. And I would like to see someone take, Jason and put him into a serialized format, like a TV show.
Oh, yeah. Jason at his best is great. I mean,
Oh man.
It's hard to go wrong with him because, like, at his best, he's like either, spoilers for the franchise here if you're not familiar with it, but he's either at his best a unstoppable, like, supernatural menace
Mm-hmm.
or a insane survivalist.
Yeah.
And no matter what you do there, that's pretty good as, like,
As like a slasher villain.
yeah.
It's pretty great.
But that's only when it's done well. When it's done
Oh.
poorly, it's just, yeah.
It's not great sometimes.
So hopefully the series turns out well, but I'm not sure how much of it will be, like, in the quote-unquote present and
Yeah,
how
I
much
don't
of
know.
it will be in the past. Because the poster art you sent me has a picture of, like, what looks to be Jason as a child
Yeah.
on the poster.
I'm hoping they set it like maybe between 1 and 2.
Well, my guess
That would be my preference.
here is it will be set in the quote-unquote present with Jason as an adult, and we'll probably have flashbacks to him as a child throughout, because I'm sure they'll go with a, who is this guy? What happened to him? Kind of thing.
Interesting.
Or if it's really about Jason, it'll probably start as a child, and then that'll be the first half of the season.
Yeah. I just think the time between 1 and 2 is such a prime time to explore because there's a lot of space there to play with that's pretty ambiguous.
I guess if I had to say, like, what it'll be the closest to, like, film wise for the series, it'll probably be closest to number 12,
Oh.
movie 12, because that's the remake.
The remake?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the remake already had to solve that issue of, like, where do we start?
Yeah, because I don't know,
Because you don't really know much about it, but
No.
I assume it'll maybe have kind of a start like that, and then just more elements of the past worked in because it's a TV show, and they can,
Oh, man. I hope we get to see the end of 1 redone
I don't know.
because that would be really fun.
It's kind of hard to do that and
It
have
is.
it be as good.
But, like, I think it'd be fun.
With that being said, I think it'll be cool to see maybe Kid Jason.
Yeah, no, that would be nice.
Just because, like, there's a lot to work with there just for backstory, especially depending on what timeline you're using.
Yeah.
Because, like, depends on if you're using a supernatural Jason or a not supernatural Jason.
It's true.
Because if you're using a supernatural Jason, there can be a lot of implications that he was always supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
So even as a kid, there would be some weird backstory.
Yeah, I'd also like to see some characterization of Jason before everything that happens. Like,
and his family.
and his family and like what it was like for him as a kid.
Probably bad.
Oh, definitely horrible. That's,
What I do think it comes down to, though, is, like, the saving grace here for whether I'll be able to stand the Kid Jason moments. Because I think there's a lot to work with there if it's done well. If it's done poorly, it's going to suck.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the main thing that's either going to make it or break it for me is how young Jason looks. I don't know yet. The art that I'm talking about that you sent me for the poster very specifically blots out his face. Like, you can kind of tell it's Jason because he's bald, but the sun blots out his face. And so, like, depending on how he looks, I think that's going to make the series.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I'm hoping they stick with the original, like, and put him at, like, I don't know, 10 to 11.
Yeah, well, I think it's more of an issue of, like, Jason's, like, disfigured, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you want him to look good
Yeah.
from, like, I can look at this for a couple episodes without laughing at it because it looks really bad. But you also don't necessarily want it to be offensive.
No, that's fair.
Which is kind of a fine line.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what they do.
Yeah. Speaking of Jason, I have to pick category.
Yeah.
And I think you and the audience both know where I'm going.
The camp movies.
Yeah, Ben, it's camp movies.
Are you going back to summer camp?
Going back to summer camp, baby.
Aren't you so excited?
Ben Ben was taunting me before the podcast when I was setting up because he was like, "We're gonna pick camp movies. Are you excited?" I was like, "No, I'm not." We've watched so many Friday the 13th films. We're not done yet. We're getting there. We're really fucking close. We need to finish it. But we can only record so many times a week before exhaustion really kills us. So I'm kind of over the whole summer camp thing.
But you have to choose summer camp movies.
I have to because
you always do category.
Because at the start of the season, I always want to give the audience a taste of every category because that seems like the logical thing to do. I have all 3 spots in camp movies, even though I'm going to be honest, I really want to pick space. Like, I really, really want to go to space again. But I won't. I'll go to summer camp. Oh, speaking of something else. Sorry to interrupt my picking of the cat, my number, but this is something that I think is funny. We haven't come up with a season title yet, but I had to make a playlist for the season. I did just call it Jason X.
That's fair.
Because I think that might end up being the title by the end of the season.
I think you should go at space camp. No one can hear you scream. 'Cause I think that's very funny.
That's pretty good. Oh, that's really good. Holy shit, when'd you come up with that?
I don't know, like the first episode.
You didn't tell me that.
I think I mentioned it.
No, you said something else completely.
Oh.
That's a great title for the season. Why do you keep these things for me? You see me so often, you could just tell me.
I forget.
Oh my god. Now I gotta go update the playlist. That's an awesome name for the season. Holy shit. Anyway, now that that's been resolved, god damn it. Yeah, we're going to summer camp. I have all 3 spots. What's in spot number 1, Ben?
And 1?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, let me check. It is Piranha.
Hell yeah! Oh, that's exciting.
Which interestingly enough for you is probably the least summer camp movie on this list.
Oh, well.
In fact, I wasn't really having a fun time looking for summer camp movies, not gonna lie. And a lot of them aren't great.
I wonder why.
And also a lot of them are exactly the same, or Friday the 13th, or Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah.
So it was a struggle. And I eventually I filled 2 of the spots. And I was like, shit, what am I going to do for this third one? I was like, wait a second. Piranha has a summer camp in it?
Look, I trust you to fill these categories as well as possible. And I'm going to be honest, Anaconda wasn't a swamp movie. But I'm glad we watched it. Piranha, probably not a summer camp movie, but I'm going to be glad
kind
we
of
watched
a summer
it.
camp. There's a summer camp in it.
Yeah.
I had to double check. But there's a summer camp in it, I swear.
I'm excited to watch Piranha because, what was it, Piranha 3D came out when I was like, I don't know, what was that, like 2013? 2010?
I think it might be like 2010 or something.
But I was young when that came out and I saw advertisements and I went, that looks crazy. I was like, I want to watch that. So now I get to watch the original.
Yeah.
Which is exciting for me. I've also heard that this movie's pretty okay. So
it's pretty okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm holding my breath. Also, it's one of the very few like aquatic movies that I don't think is very scary.
You haven't seen it, Bob.
I haven't seen it, but the concept of you know how like the concept of sharks scares me. Sharks scare me conceptually.
Okay.
The ocean scares me conceptually.
I know.
Piranhas in a river does not scare me conceptually.
Okay, see, that's where I don't understand. Why do sharks scare you, but not piranhas?
Because
like, real-life piranhas wouldn't scare me, right?
Yep.
But movie piranhas, why don't those scare you?
I don't know.
Because movie piranhas are like tiny movie sharks that swim in a school.
It's because they're small, and they look goofy. Like, I feel like I could just punt one of those little fucks. But sharks are big.
Right. So the thing is, yeah, you could probably punt a piranha, but there's 100 piranhas around you.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. There's more than one piranha in this movie?
Did you not think of the... Okay, so piranhas are schooling fish. They live in big schools, and when they eat something, they go into a feeding frenzy, which means every piranha in the school starts biting and ripping the thing apart.
Huh.
Do you not know much about piranhas, Bob?
My knowledge of piranhas goes back to me seeing advertisements for Piranha 3D.
Oh, no. It's basically like a bunch of... Now, this is movie piranhas, right?
Sure.
Real piranhas are a little less bloodthirsty than, like, the movie variety or what you'll hear about in literature and stuff. But, like, their whole thing is they smell blood in the water, and then 100 or whatever number is in this school of these little fuckers, and they're about, yay big.
Yeah.
With razor-sharp teeth, will tear all the flesh from the bone.
Oh.
Very rapidly. Like, in seconds rapidly.
So, like, if I threw, let's say, a chicken into a school of piranha, it would be annihilated.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, that makes me a little more scared, but I'm still not nearly as scared as sharks. And this might be a situation where I just don't have an explanation for you.
Do you want to watch a piranha feeding frenzy?
Absolutely not.
You sure?
No, Ben, let's continue the episode. I'll watch it later. Or I'll watch it during this movie.
Oh, but it's so cool.
You say cool, I say I don't want to see that.
But maybe you want to get a little freaked out before that. So.
No!
I can't believe you... That's so weird.
Yeah, don't ask me. I can't...
I don't think you really understand what a piranha is.
You just explained it to me.
I know, but I don't think you conceptually are letting yourself understand.
What does that even mean?
So, have we watched a horror movie where like something gets swarmed by small insects
Small insects, no. Small bat-like creatures, yes.
and torn apart?
Yeah.
That's based on like a piranha feeding frenzy
Okay.
kind of thing. Yeah. But in the water where you can't see what's coming to get you.
Water is scary. I'll admit water is scary, but like I don't know. There's something about piranhas don't hit me like sharks hit me.
No, I never said your phobia makes sense.
I never said it did either.
All right. It's a 1978 film.
Whoa! This is from the 70s?
Yeah.
Didn't know that. That's cool.
Well, because you're thinking about Piranha 3D.
Well, yeah, but I assume Piranha 3D was like a remake of something from like maybe the 90s or
No,
like.
it's a shitty remake of a late 70s movie.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Description: Jaws, but smaller.
Oh no! Oh no!
It's an hour and 34 minutes long.
Okay,
It's rated R.
nice.
IMDb gave it a 5.9 out of 10. Tomato meter gave it a 71%, and an audience score of 49%.
Why is the audience score so low, but everyone else is pretty okay?
It has 1 win and 1 nomination for awards. Notable actors. Of course, you're probably not going to know none of these
Awesome.
because it's Bob. Bradford Dillman as Paul Grogan. He played Dr. Lewis Dixon in Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, okay.
Heather Menzies-Urich as Maggie McKeon. She played Louisa Von Trapp in The Sound of Music. Kevin McCarthy as Dr. Robert Hoke. He played Dr. Miles J. Bonnell in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 1956 version.
Ugh.
Keenan Wynn as Jack. He played Colonel Bat Guano in Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Dick Miller as Buck Gardner. Played Mr. Furterman in Gremlins.
All of these people have been in really famous movies that I've never seen. I've seen Gremlins, actually.
Okay, so it's the guy, I think it's Futterman. He's the guy who owns the snowplow and starts talking about how he was in the war and the Gremlins fucked with his plane.
Yep, okay. I know that guy.
He's also I love Dick Miller. He's great. He's kind of like a character actor. He passed away, I think, a year or two ago, which was really sad. But he's also very famous for one of his early films that you'd actually know, which is the original Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh!
He's Fouch. Have you seen the original?
Yeah, I've seen the original.
He's the guy who eats flowers randomly.
Okay.
Because that's just a gag he would do in real life. And that movie was made in like 24 hours, and they were just like, do that! Why not?
It's good. That's really, really funny.
Barbara Steele as Dr. Mengers. She played Princess Asa Vajda and Katya Vajda in Black Sunday. Belinda Boloski as Betsy. She played Terry Fisher in The Howling. Melody Thomas Scott as Laura Dickinson. She played Nikki from The Young and the Restless. She was on, well, let me tell you the episodes in a second. She was on there from 1979 to 2023. I think she might still be on there. I'm not sure. It was hard to tell.
Oh, my God.
How many episodes do you think she's done?
Well, it's a soap, more than likely.
Yes. It's The Young and the Restless.
79 to 2023?
Mm-hmm. I think you're probably going to highball it.
Probably. 750.
That was an insane low ball.
Oh!
An insane low ball.
What?
3,371 episodes.
How do you have... That's so... I don't understand soaps. I don't get it. I could never catch up on one.
It's shocking she survived that long in a soap opera.
That's true. I'm surprised she hasn't died, been replaced by her evil twin yet.
Well, it might have happened. I don't know.
Maybe. Same actor.
Bruce Gordon as Colonel Waxman. He played the Earl of Buckingham and Tower of London. Barry Brown as Trooper. He played Drew Dixon in Bad Company. Paul Bartel as Dr. Dumont. He played a congressman in Escape from L.A. And then Richard Deacon as Earl Lyon. He played Mitch's city neighbor in The Birds, as well as Mel Cooley from The Dick Van Dyke Show.
I said this while you were talking about the actors. A lot of like people in some really famous movies
Oh, yeah.
that I've like definitely heard of but never seen in this film. So that's pretty nice, honestly. It's exciting for the acting portion of this movie.
I mean, that's fair. Speaking of famous people, the director's Joe Dante.
Oh, that name's familiar.
Mm-hmm. He also directed Gremlins.
Ah, that's why it's familiar. Oh, that kind of makes sense in my mind.
Well,
at
he
least.
directed Gremlins like 6 years after this.
Yeah. Well, because I assume. Oh man, does that mean the piranhas are gonna be like practical?
So, anyways, the writers Richard Robinson, he wrote one of the movies that almost went on season 1, but didn't because it was too close to Arachnophobia.
Okay.
And I thought having a thrillometer on the board would be a little bit more interesting.
Okay.
But it's very famously the Spider movie with Captain Kirk, Kingdom of the Spiders.
Oh, isn't that in black and white?
No.
Okay. What am I thinking? It's in black and white.
I think you're thinking of Tarantula, the one with the giant spider.
No, it was something. It might be something else. I actually want to watch Kingdom of the Spiders, and that may seem weird because I don't like spiders. But I was, what was it? I was like looking at a list online of some of the most famous spider movies after we watched all those spider movies, and that was like the best reviewed one was Kingdom of the Spiders.
I mean, yeah, it's supposed to be pretty good, but it's basically supposed to be just the birds,
but
with William Shatner and spiders.
Yeah.
And again, it almost went on there, but then I was like, Arachnophobia is kind of more well known, so let's do that one.
I mean, Arachnophobia was good. I like that movie. Not the spider part, but it's a well done movie, and I enjoyed myself.
So Richard Robinson did the story, not the screenplay for this movie.
Okay.
The screenplay, and this guy also got a story credit, was from John Sayles, and he's also done Lone Star. Budget is estimated at $600,000, so
It's okay.
not amazing.
No, it's low, but I mean, it's also 1978.
As far as box office goes, I don't know.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I kept getting mixed answers.
Love that.
You know, I'm sure I could find a very technical answer if I was willing to, like,
Do
pay
some
for
math?
stuff.
Oh, well.
But my answers were all over the place. And I'll give you the 3 different answers I found to how much money this film made. $16 million,
Whoa.
$2.9 million,
Oh, okay.
and $321.
What? That is a vast range of money.
Like I said, all over the place.
I thought you were going to say $321 million, and I was like, oh,
No.
$321.
No, 321. I don't know what was happening. I think people just didn't have a lot of statistics on it, and so they compiled what they had.
Someone only had $321.
Someone could only be like, I only see 321. Assumedly, it did pretty decent because this is a famous movie,
Yeah.
and it did get a sequel.
I'm going to be honest. My guess is probably the $2 million one? Because 16 seems a bit absurd,
I don't know. It might have been 16.
and $321 is just inaccurate, probably.
I think it's probably 16.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, this film did well enough to get a sequel, which
Fair.
eventually we'll watch the sequel. But there's something about that sequel. There's maybe a person associated with that sequel that is way too famous to be associated with that movie that makes me think this first one might have done pretty well.
Oh, okay.
But also, besides that sequel, there's also like 2 remakes
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and a sequel for one of those remakes.
Oh, I actually didn't know that.
Very specifically, Piranha 3D is a remake
Mm-hmm.
of this movie, and it has a sequel, Piranha 3DD, like it's in double D's.
That.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's why it's named that.
That's absurd.
Exactly.
That's absurd and upsetting.
So is Piranha 3D.
Well, that's fair.
Any movie that has 3D in the name is absurd.
Not true.
True. True facts.
No.
Really?
No.
Name one film.
Jaws 3D.
Absurd.
Never seen it.
Exactly.
The only film with 3D in the name I've seen is Friday the 13th.
Absurd.
Part 3. But
Well, it's just part 3.
yeah. Ugh.
You can tell Bob's opinion on that film from that sound.
I mean, look, we talked about it on the episode. I don't hate it. And like, it's pretty middle of the road, but the 3D stuff just ruins the movie.
Exactly. All right. Country of origin, United States.
Okay.
Tagline. Lost River Lake was a thriving resort until they discovered ... Because it goes right above Piranha.
Yeah. Okay. The taglines from these older films they never hit. They're never good. Sometimes
Well-
they're really good.
So, like, a lot of these old taglines were intended as, like, blurbs are on the back of a book. If you don't know what a blurb is, it's the fancy word for that little paragraph at the back of a book or in the, like, on the dust
The
jacket.
inside cover, yeah.
Yeah. But basically what a blurb is it tells you what the book's about. And a lot of these old taglines were intended to do the same,
Mm-hmm.
Because basically, you probably weren't going to see this movie, like, on video, probably for a while, if at all. And so, during the advertisement, like, scheme, they use posters to get you into theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things we haven't talked about on this show is that, like, especially for horror movies, advertising your movie on, like, television wasn't a thing until Jaws.
Okay.
And so a lot of these old blurbs were, like, how you let people know about a film very quickly. So they were basically like, what is this film about? Like, this blurb, this tagline tells you, hey, this is a movie about Lost River Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was a thriving resort community until they found piranhas.
Piranhas.
Yeah. I think that's why they don't hit, is because they're not, like, catchy phrases in the same way they are nowadays.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's fair.
Because nowadays, it's like, I can look up a poster whenever I want. The tagline's a part of the advertisement scheme because it's everywhere.
Yeah.
All right. I think there's only, like, 2 things to know about this film before we go into it.
Okay.
That are, like, worth knowing. First of all, this film is, if you couldn't tell from my description, obviously inspired by Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it is quite literally Jaws, but piranhas. That is the concept. And that really comes from this wave of shark movies and shark movie-esque not shark movies that came out after Jaws. Big shark craze about shark exploitation and stuff like that. If you want to know more about that, go watch that shark exploitation documentary on Shudder. They even mentioned Piranha at one point because it's a pretty famous thing in that same category that was like,
pretty cool.
Let's do a Jaws movie, but without sharks.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that when you were watching it, that they did a whole section on animal movies that are basically shark movies but with different animals.
Yeah, they all have the same premise and stuff like that. But Piranha is probably one of the most famous of those.
Yeah.
But what's super interesting about Piranha is when the movie was made, the people making it knew they were were really leaning in heavily to the shark craze. And you have to remember, this came out in 1978. So this is very, very, very soon after Jaws came out.
Yeah, this came out like right after Jaws.
This is probably one of the first of that kind of shark craze right after Jaws. I mean, I can look it up again, but when did Jaws come out?
It's in your notes somewhere. I don't remember.
Yeah, I have to check my extras for season 4. 1975, so it's only been 3 years. So very, very soon. And, most interestingly is that this film also released the same summer as Jaws 2.
Oh, man.
And when Universal saw some of the adverts for Piranha, because they are very, very Jaws-esque, they almost took out an injunction, like a cease and desist kind of order on the film.
Oh, no.
And it basically would have gone through until, I think how it ended up working out is Spielberg saw an early copy of the film before it released, and he was like, nah, it's pretty good. It's just a lampoon. Don't worry about it, Universal. And Universal's like, if you say so.
Damn.
And so that's how this film didn't get taken down forever.
Holy shit, that's crazy.
Really skirted under the board. So you have Spielberg to thank for that.
Thank you, Spielberg. We'll get to watch Jaws 3D because of you.
Well, we're not watching. Oh.
Eventually.
Piranha 3D?
Yeah.
You said Jaws 3D.
I did say Jaws 3D, my bad.
Now, really quick, I'm just going to show you right now. Do you know the Jaws poster?
Yeah, the one with the shark coming up underneath the person?
Yeah. This one?
Yeah, the very classic one, yeah.
I'm going to show you the Piranha poster.
I guess it can't really be spoilers. I know what the movie is.
Do you see the similarities there?
Yeah, but I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be really real right now. Any movie about, an underwater scary creature could use the exact same format.
Except they very specifically blew up the size of the piranha to make it look like a shark.
Okay, maybe they did do that.
They knew what they were doing. Which I think leads us into the next thing I want to talk about, is that this is, I think, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure this is our first New World Pictures film.
Oh.
Are you familiar with New World Pictures?
No, not at all.
Okay, so it's a production company, and one of its founders was Roger Corman, who you should know the name of.
I do, very vaguely.
But you're like, why do I know that name?
Yeah, why do I know that name?
He's like a super famous, I don't want to call him a film director. He did some directing, but he also did production stuff. He's done a lot. But he's really famous for making low budget horror films.
What did he work on that we've seen?
I don't think he's worked on anything that we've seen. Like, I think this is our first Roger Corman film
Okay.
on here. Our first New World film thing.
We've definitely talked about
But
it
we've
before.
talked about Roger Corman. Because, among other things, one of his earlier films is The Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, that's why we've talked about him. Okay, yeah,
The
that makes
original one.
sense. Yeah.
He's the guy who was like, let me make this in a day. He's also done, what? Attack of the Crab Monster,
That's pretty awesome.
which has one of the stupidest looking creatures I've ever seen. It's great. It's so stupid.
Okay.
And The Dunwich Horror, the 1971.
That sounds familiar, but I don't know
It's a
anything about it.
Lovecraft story.
Oh, okay. That would be why.
But yeah, lots of low budget stuff. And he was doing a lot of low budget kind of aquatic horror movies before Jaws came out. So this was kind of
his thing.
kind of already par for the course for like after Jaws come out to be like, all right, let's do a Jaws like one.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that's all I gotta say about this movie.
Okay.
So we can go watch it.
Okay. I guess we'll see you guys in a minute. Hi everybody. Welcome back. We just finished watching Piranha.
It's Piranha.
People in the movie kept saying Piranha.
Yeah, I don't know why, 'cause what's his name said Piranha, and his assistant said Piranha.
Yeah. And then what was it? Hoke said Piranha.
Yeah.
And
Basically,
then,
a lot of the people in this movie said Piranha. Like,
Yeah.
they pronounced the H.
which I mean I don't get, but whatever.
Which I guess that's fine.
But then there was that Texas State Police officer that went Piranha. And that guy was good too.
To be honest, I wasn't alive in 1978.
Yeah, me either.
So maybe people just didn't really know what piranha were
Mm-hmm.
before this movie, so it wasn't like a common word to know how to pronounce.
I mean, sure.
And so everyone was like, oh, let me look at the script. It's piranha. Oh, there's an H here. Piranha instead of piranha. Because the one guy who got it right was, I mean, it was his assistant who said it right after him, so that makes sense. Who was it? It was, Jesus Christ, why am I forgetting his name?
Is it the main guy?
No, it was, Dick Miller said it right.
Oh, yeah.
The guy who owns the resort, Buck Gardner.
Mm-hmm.
He said it right. He said piranha, and then his assistant right after him
Oh,
also
what was his
said
name,
piranha.
Whitney?
I don't know.
I think they call him Whitney.
I'm gonna call him Skipper.
His name is not
'Cause he
Skipper.
was dressed like a skipper.
I do like Whitney. I think it's really funny. There's a really good moment where he goes, "The piranha's eating the guests, sir." And I thought it was so fucking good.
Bob found that way too funny.
Is it not funny? He's running around freaking out because piranhas are in the water. And he's like, people are freaking out. And he's like, "The piranhas? What are you talking about, the piranhas?" He goes, "The piranhas are eating the guests, sir." And he goes, "Oh." He has to go deal with it. It's great.
No,
I enjoy
he's-
him a lot.
He's on the phone with like someone being like, "There's no piranhas."
Yeah. It's just so good.
Anyways, I think Bob liked the movie, if you can tell.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I like it.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm gonna describe the plot, and then we can talk about it.
Sure.
We can do our stuff, I guess.
Do you not like this film?
I do. I have some issues with it.
Okay. You seemed so bummed out the entire movie.
No.
Okay.
In fact, I like the back end of this film, I think, the most. But we'll get into that.
Okay.
Anyways, rough plot here is it starts with a cold open, which Bob noted this while watching the movie. It's one of the few cold opens that is actually, like, fairly relevant to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not just, oh, these people died before the plot. Like, them dying is a part of the plot.
Which is so nice that it has good follow-through like that.
But the cold open is some kids are hiking, and they see this government facility, and they're like, wow. There's this sign that says, military testing site,
Yeah.
restricted area, do not enter. And they go, you know what?
Let's enter.
Let's go in there. That looks cool. So they go into the restricted government military testing site,
A classic blunder.
and oh, what do you know? There's a pool in here filled with water.
Let's go swimming.
Let's go swimming. And they die because there's piranha
Yep.
in the pool in the military testing site.
Mhm.
So you know, I guess what I'm gonna say here is play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yep.
Because I don't feel bad for them. That's just kind of what happens.
I feel bad for them because, you know, they didn't deserve to be eaten alive by piranhas. No one does. But
No,
they were
that's
stupid
fair.
for doing that.
No, yeah, natural consequences.
Sure.
It sucks that they were eaten alive by piranhas. That There's no way you go into this situation going, that's a risk. know? But, however, going into a military testing site,
Yeah.
finding a pool of definitely not, like, clean water.
No, definitely gross water.
It wasn't gross. It just looked, like, murky.
Yeah.
But, again, I'd look at that water go, military testing site. That's probably bad for me.
Yeah, probably not great.
But anyways, they die. And so there's like a jump, probably like a day or two.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's probably more than that, probably like a week.
I would say it's probably like a week, yeah.
And we pick off with this lady. Do you remember her name?
I know her last name, or at least how to spell it, but I can't pronounce it.
You know it's really bad if you don't know their names. Is that McKeon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to call her Maggie. That's her first name.
Her name was Maggie.
They must not say her name a lot if you
They
didn't know
must
it.
not, because I know the Grogster's name.
Grogan.
Grogan.
Well,
Good
you
old
know
Paul.
that. Anyways,
Paul.
Maggie is I
think she's like a PI.
Yeah, but she doesn't call herself a PI. She says she's in,
No.
like, the skips business.
Yeah, I don't know what
Weird
that
term I've never heard
means.
before. But basically, she finds missing people.
Yep.
Again, I think she's basically a PI.
That's my interpretation of it.
Assumedly, she doesn't specialize in missing people because that would be almost too much like a police officer.
I don't know. It is 1978.
I guess. Anyways, she's been assigned the case to track down these missing teens because they were supposed to go hiking, and who knows. So she flies out because I don't know where she's from. I'm going to say Houston because this is all said in Texas, and we know she's from the city. But she flies out. She gets a Jeep, which she does not know how to drive.
I don't think many people in this film actually know how to drive.
That's fair. But she does not know how to drive on a gravel road because there is maybe 30 seconds of watching this lady drive in this movie, and it is the most stressful thing I've ever seen.
She's a fucking maniac.
There are a couple scenes where I think that Jeep almost flips. Like, not even as a part of the movie. It looks like the actual Jeep is about to flip because they were like, all right, we got to make this look like crazy driving, and they hit, like, big rocks.
Yeah.
In fact, she drives it so recklessly, she overheats the engine. And I just want to note this. She then pries the engine, not the engine, the hood of the car up, and she throws it at the front of the car. And it's an old Jeep, so it's a lot more square than modern Jeeps. And the hood hits the top of the Jeep,
windshield.
right where the windshield is. And I think they must have done this take at least twice, because if you look really closely at the film, especially if you're watching in like HD or something, there is a impact mark and a crack in the windshield right where the car's hood would have hit the top of the windshield.
Yeah.
Which I think is very funny, because assumedly it was caused from shooting this scene. But she's going up the mountain, and then we cut over to our other character, who's Paul. And Paul's a drunk who lives on the mountain. That's basically all you need to know about his character.
Well, with a kid. A drunk mountain man with a child.
Okay, well, drunk mountain man Paul. And she breaks into his home.
She doesn't break in. She knocks. He says, come in.
She was already in the house at that point.
No. You watch her open the door.
I know, but I think she was already in. Like, I think she was already walking in, and he says, come in. I don't think he says, come in. I think he says, like, yeah?
No, he says, it's open.
Okay. Anyway, she walks into his house, and then starts snooping around in his house while he's eating dinner.
Now, that's fair. She shouldn't have been doing that.
And she's like, I'm looking for these kids. You wouldn't know where they are. And he's like, no. Why would I? And eventually, he tells her about the military facility that's supposed to be abandoned up on the hill. And she's just like, you're going to show me. He's like, no, I'm not. And then it cuts to him showing her, which kind of weird. I legitimately don't know why he went along with it.
I don't know either.
Like, as an aside, I don't know
what motivation Paul has to have taken her up there.
It's not well established because assumedly she just kept bugging him, but even then it's a little iffy. Anyways, they go up to the facility. While they're there, they kind of figure out the kids had been there.
Yeah, they find their stuff.
Well, yeah, they find some of it. And they get the genius idea to drain the pool into the river.
Because they find some of their clothes, like, up on the thing, so they assume they got in the water.
And so they drain the pool into the river and, of course, release all the piranha into this river that goes to a big dam where there's a resort and stuff. There is a summer camp on the river.
There's a summer camp. And actually, a good portion of the movie is in the summer camp.
Because that's where Paul's kid is.
Yep.
In this movie. And then assumedly the dammed off area drains into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think this is pretty close to the coast, it seems.
Probably like it just Texas is like not that far from the ocean.
Depends on what part of Texas you're in.
Yeah, Texas is pretty big.
Because Texas is ginormous.
Yep.
Anyways, so a lot of the film from like after draining the pool is like trying to stop the piranha from getting into the big dam section.
Yeah.
Or reaching like the camp. So that's the movie, like overall, broad strokes.
Mhm.
And so I think we're gonna get into like actually maybe discussing some positives of this film, some negatives. So spoilers ahead, as always.
Yeah. I don't think we're gonna need like a spoiler section.
No, I don't think so. I mean, obviously, if you couldn't get to guess this, the piranha gradually make their way down into the big dam section.
Yeah.
The lake.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real big
Spoiler
thing
about
I think
that,
we need
'cause
to talk about.
That's like the point of the film.
So anyways, right off the bat, I think the thing we need to talk about with this film that I think is really, really good and makes the film worth a watch is practical effects.
Yeah.
They're fun.
The piranhas themselves actually look really cool. And
They are 100% some rubber piranhas on like wires being rapidly like jerked back and forth.
yeah, but it's cool because of the way they frame most of the shots.
Exactly. It's we talked it's New World
Mhm.
Pictures, and they know how to make low budget monster movies, and they use their tricks to their
To
benefit.
their advantage. I mean, I genuinely they look so much better than I expected them to.
Oh yeah, for like objectively I can look at the piranhas in this film and go, those are super cheap,
Yeah.
but they look pretty good
Yeah.
for knowingly probably being pretty low budget and
Mhm.
easy to do. And so right off the bat I wanted to mention that, but also just like the effects on like some of the gore and stuff is
Mhm.
also really good. There is one character, it's my favorite character,
Yeah.
Jack. He's just a drunk old mountain man,
Yeah. Basically, he's the evolution of Paul.
but a lot more happy with his life.
Well, yeah.
And spoilers again, guys. He does die very early on in the film.
Oh, yeah.
But he probably has one of the most brutal like wound reveals,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks really good.
It looks really, really good.
And I in fact have like an issue with that one scene because it's so good and so early on in the film that basically every other character who we see wounded is lacking in comparison.
Because that is like the pinnacle of what a piranha could do to a man.
Things have been stripped from the body.
Yeah. And spoilers, I guess. But there are a lot of people in this film
Oh yeah,
that get attacked by the piranhas.
lots
and
of bodies, which is great to see.
Yeah. None of them look nearly as good as Jack.
It's just flesh wounds,
It's just flesh wounds and stuff.
and
Which are cool, and it's nice.
it's cool, but we were discussing this during the movie, so I don't know if we'll touch on it for too long, but it's kind of frustrating in that the damage the piranhas can do doesn't seem to line up or
Mhm.
stay level. Like, there's a couple characters who just very clearly will die immediately in a feeding frenzy, but there will be these big attack sequences, and there will be, like, a bunch of people who walk out of the water completely fine or just with,
Yeah.
like, a couple what essentially look like surface scrapes where the
Mhm.
piranhas have just bitten off a layer of skin. And obviously there's the whole thing with Jack at the beginning, and it's just like, well, it's disappointing to not see some super, super intense, like, these piranhas stripped all the flesh from the bone
Mhm.
throughout the film. I think it's more frustrating the fact that it's not all the same. Like, if
Yeah.
everyone just had these flesh wounds, I don't think I'd mind. But the fact
Yeah.
that some people get, like, immediately devoured
Mhm.
while other people right next to them are completely fine is just kind of, I don't know, frustrating for me.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for me is like the movie starts with that whole Jack thing, and it's way up here. Like that is something that
It's like at a 10.
It's like at a 10, and it makes the piranhas feel scary, like really scary, because it's like, oh my god, they could do that to people. So it's really disappointing when we get to the scenes with a bunch of people where it's like, oh, because I'll be honest, there are some people that get pretty annihilated, and you get to see their bodies after.
Yeah.
But none of them are at that same level. So it's just like, because we started up here, going any further down just kind of feels bad.
Right, because you want a progression and not a
Yeah.
regression. And at the end of the day, I don't think I can be too mad at the film, because what it comes down to is, like, logistics and money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, logistically, it's hard to frame a lot of, like, pretty insane gore effects because it requires a lot of makeup, but sometimes just, like, weird camera angles
Yeah.
Because, like, if you have someone who's, like, missing all the flesh from their arm, you have to, like, show the bone but not their whole body. And so there's a lot of issues shooting some pretty intense, like, wounds and stuff that I'd want from this film. So I can understand not having that for a lot of these sequences. And then money's the other one. You have a lot of people in this film getting attacked, which is, again, nice to see because, I have to compare this film to Jaws because it's kind of a Jaws ripoff.
Yeah.
And, to see multiple people getting attacked like this at a lot faster rate is really nice, but it's expensive to, like, do makeup and stuff for all of them. So,
yeah.
Point being is, well, I can be frustrated that, like, it feels like a downgrade and what the Piranhas can do throughout the movie. I can't be mad at the film because it feels like the film did its best.
I'm going to be honest, they literally probably did the best they could with the budget they had and the stuff they had at the time.
Yeah.
Like, hats off to them because, to be honest, if they didn't do as well as they did, this movie would not be as interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, in a similar vein, this film could have just been all the person gets pulled under the water and there's red blood cloud, and it's not. It shows, like, actual people coming out of the water and stuff like that. And so they really did go that extra step.
Yeah, and while we're talking about piranhas and their practicals, one of the coolest parts of this film is we get to actually go under the water and see the piranhas attack people and bite people. And, like, the actual, like, bites and stuff aren't amazing, but you do get to see, like, hunks of flesh float off into the water and, like, blood. And there's lots of really, really cool stuff like that.
No, yeah, there's a lot of cool underwater sequences. And I don't know how many people who listen to this podcast are really into, like, film stuff. But from a film angle, that's really cool because they had to use an underwater film camera to get those scenes. And I don't think that's something people think about a lot. But, like, underwater cameras have always been very expensive.
Yeah.
It's only getting to nowadays where stuff like that is cheaper. But even nowadays, like, a true underwater camera is kind of more difficult to get your hands on. But back in the day when you had film cameras, they were extra expensive. And they were usually, like, they had to be slightly smaller so you could use them underwater and stuff like that with diving. And to get as many sequences as we do with a camera like that is just impressive. And what I think is really interesting, though, is you can tell the sequences that are shot, like, completely underwater are done with a different camera than the one they used for the rest of the film. Because, A, there's some color differences, but also the border of the screen for the film is different. So they probably switched to a different, like, film diameter.
Yeah.
So the film was probably shot in, like 32 millimeter or something like that. And I don't think it's 8 millimeter, but it might be 8 or 16 for the underwater shots. They look really good.
No, they do look really good. And
It's just,
that's
like,
what's so
interesting
impressive
thing.
is, like, I'm going to be honest, I expected some underwater stuff, but the amount of underwater stuff in this film it's so much.
No, yeah, I think there might be more underwater sequences in this film than Jaws.
Yeah, and it's really, really cool because that's part of what makes the piranha so scary.
You get piranha POV stuff.
You get piranha POV stuff, and it's really cool. It's almost like slasher-esque because you just, like, watch piranha, like, dun, 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 dun.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think they're doing the whole Jaws thing, and Jaws does do that too.
Yeah.
I do want to mention, since we're talking about the piranha POV, the piranhas make a sound in this movie. It's so weird. I don't know if I can describe it. It's like a weird synthetic sound. I'm just going to call it synthetic swarming effects.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
It's
because they're like, what sound does a fish make, guys?
What
And
sound
they
does
chose
a fish
one.
make?
It's iconic, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, you hear it in the film and you know it, but I can't be like, that sound. I just wanted to mention it because it's always funny to see fish make sounds. Like, in Jaws, the shark roars. That's a thing in Hollywood now. Sharks roar. They don't in real life, but in movies.
Why not?
Okay. Aside from the practical effects and stuff, I think a lot of the framing for stuff is pretty good.
Oh, man. I think the cinematography in this film is great.
It's pretty decent. I don't think there's any shots where I'm like, wow, that looks super beautiful. But overall,
It's not beautiful, but it's just cool.
Yeah, overall, it's competent. I also think a lot of the characters are decently written and acted.
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of the characters are pretty well done.
And I mean, Bob was laughing at some lines. So there's some funny stuff in this film. In fact, I do want to mention the character right now that just kind of reminds me of Bob.
Jesus
But
Christ.
if he was 20 years older and an asshole that ran a summer camp.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was very specifically
It was Dumont.
Dumont.
Yeah.
So Paul Bartel is the actor who plays Mr. Dumont. But he is like, assumedly the owner of this summer camp where Paul's kid goes. And he is like a rejected drill sergeant to these 10-year-old kids.
It's really funny.
And it is really funny because he's just an asshole for no reason.
He's always yelling at Paul's kid going, Grogan?
Yeah, and he specifically seems to hate Paul's kid. Like, there's one sequence where he's just walking down to the water at night, and he just randomly screams at Grogan. She's not even on screen.
There. It's really, really funny. And I think this movie has to leverage some of the characters being funny because this is an absurd premise.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is.
Like, if you were to take this, like, it's quote-unquote serious, but it's not.
No, unlike Jaws, which is kind of grounded in reality. I mean, like, rogue sharks aren't a real thing, but it's kind of grounded in reality. This one's, like, straight up has a basis in sci-fi, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Oh, yeah, we got to talk about that. That's cool.
It doesn't take itself too seriously, and I think the humor really helps get us through the slow parts of this movie.
Yeah.
Because when the piranhas aren't on screen, because they can't be on screen all the time, it's kind of slow. But the humor and stuff really makes it watchable. Because this isn't like Jaws. It's not like an amazing masterpiece that can like keep you just as interested when the shark's not on screen as when it is. And so the comedy kind of covers its ass then.
Mm-hmm.
I think moving on, we can go talk about the sci-fi element here.
Oh, man. Which probably one of my favorite parts of this movie.
I think it might be my favorite part of this movie is kind of the explanation behind this military base.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's a cool way to work in, hey, why do these insane monster piranha exist? But also, let's just add some fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea here is this military base is quote-unquote abandoned.
Yeah.
I'm going to mention it right now. There's a guy who still works there called Dr. Hoke.
Mm-hmm.
And so allegedly the base is abandoned. That's what they've told the public. But logistically speaking, there's someone still there, and there's power there.
Yeah.
The government definitely knows that someone's still there. So it's definitely still being operated, just on a skeleton crew, essentially.
Of one man.
Yeah. They basically abandoned the project, which makes sense why you tell people there's no one there, because there's no guards. But
yeah.
It's still technically operational, I'd think. But he's basically our insert mad scientist here. But he's basically worked on, they call it, Project Razor Teeth?
Yeah, good name.
Good name. But long story short, apparently the U.S. government during, what was it, the Vietnamese War?
Vietnam, baby.
I don't know why I call it the Vietnamese
Totally makes
War.
sense, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Good current events thing for when this movie came out.
Yeah.
But during the Vietnam War, they decided to create a biological weapon to basically kill the North Vietnamese.
Yeah, by filling the rivers with insanely deadly piranhas.
I'm not going to say it was maybe a well-thought-out plan.
No, but it was a plan.
Because logistically, it's a nightmare, and also there's nothing to keep the piranhas from going south.
Yeah.
Or anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But long story short, they wanted to make very rapid breeding piranhas that could survive in both warm and cold waters, so that they could just eat everyone who hops in the water.
Yep.
Indiscriminately. Probably including U.S. soldiers.
Including them for sure.
And, long story short, after the war was ended, they shut the project down for the most part.
Well, no, I don't even think they got to use it. I think the dude was like, we had a blank check, and then the war ended.
No, that's what I meant. Like, once the war
okay.
ended, they stopped giving them money and stuff.
Yeah.
They were, like, closed down. And, I mean, I think Dr. Hoke continued it.
On his own.
But, again, I think they had to have known he was still there.
I mean, yeah.
Straight up.
The government probably wouldn't just leave a pool full of mega deadly piranhas unchecked.
I think they mentioned they tried to kill them all, but then some of them survived.
Yeah.
And now they're immune to poison.
Which is a whole separate thing.
A whole separate thing. And it's implied like it's all poison, which is also kind of stupid. But yeah, Dr. Hoke stays behind and he keeps working with them and keeps making them better.
Yeah, because he says there's so much more I can do with this species.
Just mad scientist bullshit.
Which, I mean, that's kind of cool. And it makes sense as a character thing.
And the biggest one I want to mention now is they can also survive both in fresh and salt water.
Yeah.
Which makes the fact that they're swimming towards the ocean scarier.
Pretty bad, because if those things get into the ocean,
sequel bait.
Yeah, it's over, baby.
But yeah, that's the sci-fi elements.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that they do to make the military base seem even more sci-fi is they have some stop-motion monsters and stuff just in jars.
It's so cool.
There is 2 weird piranha monsters. One of them's a weird worm thing, and the other one's like a little guy.
He's a little guy.
They look really cool. I
They
just
look
wanted to mention
really
that.
awesome. I also like part of that entire like sequence there at the beginning when they're exploring the military base before they meet Hoke. And what I think makes him such a cool character in my mind is how they design his lab and like the setup for them discovering him, because it looks like something straight out of a sci-fi film.
Oh yeah, but I mean, to be honest, they've made a lot of films like this at this point, so they just were like, all right, get all this stuff for the mad science lab out of storage.
But it looks really good.
No, it does. And I mean, that's just what you can accomplish if you work in the same industry. And so even if you're on a low budget, you already have all this stuff.
And also, so while we're on the topic of settings, everything in this film looks good.
Yeah.
Like setting-wise. It all makes sense. There's nothing out of the ordinary. Like the summer camp looks good. There's a part where they're at a police station. All that stuff looks good.
I think the only stuff that doesn't look good setting-wise is there's one scene where there's like some underwater sets, and they look a lot more fake than the rest of the movie. And it stands out because of how real everything else in the film looks.
That's fair. No, that's fair. All the resort stuff looks nice.
Yeah, I think it's like an actual marina.
Yeah. No, like, they did a really good job at, like, picking a location and going full hard, like, this is where we are, and it's real, and we're making it work. And it looks really nice.
You know why?
Why?
'Cause it's cheaper to use real places than make your own sets.
But the fact that it's, like, all real just, it adds to the grounding of the situation that we're experiencing, especially when we see it filled with people, and they're all freaking out. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. All right. Do you have anything else positive to mention about this film? Because I do want to mention, I think, 2 big issues I have.
I like the music.
You do?
The music is fun. There's nothing in particular about it, but I just think the music worked well with the rest of the film.
Okay, fair enough. There's nothing stand out about it for me.
There's
So,
nothing stand out, but it's like,
I'm glad you at least liked it.
there are some films where the music doesn't help, and in this film, the music doesn't hurt.
That's
So-
better than nothing.
Exactly.
There's that weird piranha sound effect. That's probably the best part.
It is probably the best part. It's super good. It's so fun. Okay.
My
You
bad.
have gripes.
I have gripes. In fact, I think I have two major gripes with this film.
Okay. I'll hear you out.
The first one is kind of an issue I have throughout the film, and that's the fact that this is a water movie, right?
Yeah.
The piranhas are stuck in this lake and this river and whatever. They're fish, right? And because of that, it means every time we need a horror thing in this movie, it has to happen in the water. And for, kind of a B monster movie, as an audience, we know we want a lot of
The monster.
A
'cause
monster.
That's what we're here for.
this isn't fine art. This is Piranha. And that's all well and good, but it does mean that the plot needs to force our main characters to
Into
be
the water.
be in the water. And just a minor gripe with that is it doesn't always make sense, I think, for our characters to be just so in the water all the time.
Yeah. I mean, there's one big one that I'm thinking about near the end of the film.
There is an egregious thing where there's a thing that probably shouldn't have been underwater. It's
But
just
it is.
underwater so they can have an underwater sequence.
Yep.
But the big one that stands out for me as like, I don't know about this, is the fact that the majority of this film is spent with the 2 main characters, Paul and it's Maggie, right?
Yep.
Traveling down the the water, this river from the top of the mountain in a old style like Huckleberry Finn raft. It's like a bunch of logs bound together.
Yeah.
And they're specifically traveling down the water in this raft because their Jeep is ruined.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, Paul doesn't have a car.
Yep.
And they need to transport Dr. Hoke, who's injured, to town, apparently. And so they've decided that the best way to get to town is to use the river. And in part, that kind of makes sense because, you're transporting a wounded person.
Yeah.
And the river is usually the fastest way to your destination. And so, essentially getting into a raft and just going downstream kind of makes sense in some ways. However, it is also maybe an emergency situation, and there is a road that they could just run down, because it's definitely a road downhill. And I just think, it's one of those things that sticks out to me as, I feel like we decided to hop into this water and this pontoon because that was what the plot needed.
I will agree it is a little bit preposterous.
Because, I get they wanted to get, Hoke to town for a doctor. That's part of why they brought him. And if you're bringing Hoke with you, you need to,
have transportation because he can't walk
transportation.
because he's fucked up.
And if you had to build, a stretcher, that would have taken longer dragging it than it would going downriver. But I honestly think, because they are going down this river slow. I was looking at it. This is the calmest river I've ever seen. There is no current. They don't have paddles for this pontoon. They have large sticks that they're using to, like,
push it.
And so they are going really slow. In fact, they are going so slow down this river that I think walking down the mountain would have been faster. And so it's just one of those things, like, I think they would have made better time leaving Hoke at Paul's cabin and just walking down the mountain.
And then getting a ride back with from the hospital.
And then getting a ride back with, like, a sheriff or
somebody.
I
mean, yeah.
Especially because, like, you could get maybe partway down the mountain and see someone and flag them down.
I understand that.
But it's not a big deal overall,
yeah.
I think. But it's just, like, an example of, like, oh, we need to force characters to be in the water.
No,
and there's
that makes
just
sense.
A lot of that throughout the film. Like, at one point, there's some military people that come up to help the situation, and they think they've handled the situation, but then proceed to get in the water.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no normal person would do that, even if you think you've handled the situation.
At least for a while. Like, a long time to where you know there's nothing that could have possibly gone wrong.
Yeah. Point being is basically this film never leaves the water, and I get why. It's because you always need the piranha there, but
they could have given us better excuses for the people being in the water.
It's not like a big deal overall. I think most of the time
it works.
And it might just be that I'm pickier because this is like a secondary, third watch for me.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's fair.
But I will mention it doesn't always make the most sense.
Not always.
It's sometimes a little egregious. So that's just like a minor thing. But my big gripe with this film is that the setup for events of the piranha getting into the water makes both Paul and Maggie, at least for me, and some of the other people I've watched this with, not Bob, but other people, kind of unlikable, at least for the first half of the movie. After a while, it's fine. I don't care anymore. You kind of get over it. But in this film, our main characters break into this military testing ground and then release the piranha into the river. And, you know, obviously, there's no way you would know piranha in this pool.
No.
And so there's no way you would know beforehand you just drained piranha.
No.
Into a river. Because that would be preposterous.
It would be ridiculous.
But they did knowingly drain water at a military testing site, which is, I mean, you can take a guess, is probably weapons testing, into what is also probably the drinking water for your town. And that is just kind of stupid. And to make matters worse, when they do so, they then assault the guy working there when he tries to stop them from draining the pool.
Yeah.
And I think there's some implication that they think this guy is responsible for maybe the death of these two teenagers they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But also you broke into federal property and then assaulted, assumedly, a federal employee.
Well,
it's just
the federal employee thing. I don't know. He could have just been some man squatting there.
Doesn't matter. You broke into federal property. Like, this place is still chained up, and there's a guy there.
Yeah.
Who he does look like he works there. And the lab's still going. There's still power. There's a live bunny rabbit in a cage.
Yeah.
Like, this is very clearly, Paul thinks it's abandoned, but they get there and it's like very active. Very obviously there's people working here. And the one guy who's like, hey, don't drain that pool, they then club over the head with a, I don't know, I'd assume, what metal? Aluminum flask? Like a thick aluminum flask?
Yeah.
Hard enough to dent it, causing internal bleeding in his skull. And I don't know, it's one of those issues I have with the film where the main characters cause the problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fun way to start a plot, is to have your main character start a problem, because then they feel obligated to solve it.
Yeah.
But my issue here is they were doing bad things, but like knowingly doing wrong things when they accidentally caused the problem, which makes it seem less forgivable. And then after causing the problem and clubbing this guy over the head, they proceed to kidnap him and then go, everything that happened that's bad is not our own fault, it's yours, to their kidnapped person.
No, that's fair.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I know, Bob, you didn't really agree with me while watching the film.
No,
in the moment.
I think I still don't agree. Well, okay. Here is my thing. I get why they're unlikable for that reason, but my thing is, A, they didn't know there were piranhas in there. But B, and this is my big thing, Maggie was just trying to do her job and do what she was trying to do, and in her process of mind, she's going, oh, I'm doing like the thing. They looks like they got in this pool. I'm going to drain the pool to try and find these people.
Well, she also broke into federal property.
You're really stuck up on the whole breaking into federal property
It's a
thing.
big deal, Bob.
It is a big deal.
It's a big deal, Bob.
But like,
and it's like blowing up a school bus and going like, I didn't think there was kids in there. It should be fine.
Jesus Christ.
You know? I guess my thing is, our main characters do some shitty stuff at the beginning of this film, and then they're not repentant about it until that plot point is shelved to just deal with the Piranha film, or the Piranha problem for the rest of the film. And so, long story short, at least for me, especially on rewatch, makes the beginning of this film just kind of annoying because it's frustrating to watch the characters do stupid things.
But they're only stupid things because you know what's happening.
Well, no, the stupid thing is breaking into federal property and then releasing the pool water. I guess I would prefer it. Like, the simple thing that would have made this situation much better is if instead of, like, a military testing ground, this was just some random mad scientist house. Would have solved the issue entirely.
So you're just stuck up on the moral dilemma of breaking into federal property.
No, it's not the moral dilemma. It's this is a bad idea, and everything we do here is a bad idea because this is probably a weapons testing area, and we should be really careful. And then going in and not being very careful and acting like, because when they drain the pool, they act like, oh, we're just draining a swimming pool, and not like, oh, we're draining a swimming pool in a military testing ground. Those are two different things, because one is just whatever, and then the other's like, oh, there's probably something bad here. And you can give an excuse that Maggie's an out-of-towner and also doing a job that she's being paid for, but Paul definitely knew, because he even says, yeah, the pool probably just drains into the river.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess maybe my other thing is, like, they probably just don't have the forethought to think about that. You know what I mean? Like, because they're just in the moment, like, all right, let's explore this place, try and find these people.
I guess. But then it's their behavior afterwards that's kind of
No,
like,
yeah, and that's totally inexcusable. Because after they drain the pool and Hoax, like, you release these man-eating piranha in the water, like, it's your fault.
And
that's stupid.
I think that also makes the beginning worse, because it's just like, I don't like this, but I could get over it. But then it's their behavior about the events that's just kind of,
yeah,
not great. Point being, though, it's like, I think I'm only stuck on these issues with these two main characters for the first, like, 30 minutes, an hour of the film. Like, basically the first half.
Yeah.
And then once they actually start dealing with the piranha issue, how it was caused is no longer relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, my issues with them is no longer relevant.
Well,
And
my
then-
issues with them go away immediately because they're actually trying to fix it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you caused the problem, you're going to fix it. Okay.
Basically, once Dr. Hoke disappears and they stop being kidnappers, they're a little less bad. All right, I just wanted to mention that because, like, it is I think the roughest part of this movie.
Yeah, and honestly, first watch, I didn't think it was that rough.
It's a little bit more rough in hindsight.
I mean, fair enough. Most things are.
They do bad things. Anyways, I don't really have much more to talk about here, so I guess we can do recommendations if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot more to say about this film either.
Except for the fact that it's like, I'll talk about that in ratings. Go ahead. Give your recommendation.
If you want a scary water movie, and specifically a scary water movie where, like, you get a lot of underwater stuff. There's a lot of underwater stuff in this film, and I actually really liked it. It was very surprising. I thought it was really cool. If the concept of Jaws but small sounds interesting to you, very much that. Ben was not wrong.
Multiple of them.
Yeah, multiple small Jaws.
Because that's the big thing. It's not just one creature. It's a ton.
Yeah.
You can just leave it at that.
I don't know if I have any more, man.
Okay. I think my big recommendation for me is if you want, like, a monster movie set in the water that isn't just, like, sharks or some other assorted large killer creature, but is in fact something smaller and that attacks in a swarm.
Yeah.
This is kind of cool. It's also not in the ocean, which is also really interesting.
No, that is really cool.
A lot of, water-related horror movies are the ocean because
it's the ocean.
It's the ocean. And it's a lot more untamed and scarier than just a river. Because guess what, guys? You can just get out of the river. You don't need to stay in it. If there's killer things in the water, you just move yourself 10 feet to the left and you hop out. Kind of defeats the horror. But, if that's something that sounds interesting to you, That's probably the biggest recommendation here. Aside from that, if you want something that's like heavy on practical effects for like a monster movie and is also from like very distinctly feels like it's from the 70s, it's probably right up your alley. And I think that's just a good lead into my last recommendation of if you're looking for a, New World Productions film, you aren't really familiar with them, you want to check them out, I think this is a decent place to start. It's probably not my favorite film by them, but it's a fun Roger Corman associated film, so you can check it out for that reason. Oh, and there's a summer camp in it, I guess.
Yeah.
If you want to be
We talked about that.
cheesy like me and be like, it's totally a summer camp, guys.
I'm not as mad because the summer camp was much more plot relevant than I anticipated.
No, it is, but this is like the least summer camp movie possible.
But a lot of my highlights from this film all come from the summer camp
Yeah.
because Mr. Dumont is so funny. He's so funny.
All right, Bob, you want to rate it?
Okay, I like this film. I've said that quite a few times. But I will admit it has problems. And also, it's not like fine art, nor is it bad. But it does have that B-movie quality to it that I
100%.
love. And you know that about me. So I'm sitting in kind of a weird spot because I could give this a fairly high rating, but I know that it is not amazing.
That's an understatement.
But I like this, but I like it. That's where I'm sitting, is that I'm in a weird spot. But I think I'll give it 3.5. I think I'm giving it that extra half point mostly because I was so impressed by all the underwater stuff and all of the way they dealt with like the practical piranha stuff. I just think all that stuff is so cool. 3 because it meets expectations. It is a piranha film.
Yeah.
Where piranhas eat people.
No, as long as they have piranhas eating people, and especially in the quantity we see, a 3 is a given.
Yeah. But I'm going to give it the half point for all that stuff. Plus, that stuff at the beginning in Hoax Lab is so fucking cool.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily fit the rest of the film.
No, but
I'm glad
so
it's there.
Awesome. I think we got some outtakes from it. It's one of my favorite parts of this film.
Bob sees the little guy and he's like, is he going to be in the rest of the movie?
I was like, please let the little guy be plot relevant.
No, he's so expensive.
He's just a little guy. I love him.
Is there any specific reason you're not giving it a 4, though?
We didn't really. It's mostly the fact that, and we talked about this, the Jack practical is at a 10, and then you don't get to. I just want more just people getting annihilated.
So just a little bit of disappointment there.
Yeah, that's my only thing that's really keep me from giving it a 4. I don't think I could ever give a film like this a 5 unless it did something super creative with the premise.
Oh, yeah.
And this film was pretty bog standard in terms of premise. It's like piranhas eat people in water, swarming fish.
Fair.
Not that creative, not really able to get a higher rating than that for me.
All right. For me, I'm just going to say this right now. I'm going to give it a 3.5, too. And I think my reasoning's kind of similar. Like, I don't think I can go above a 4 because at the end of the day, not only is this film not super unique, again, it's just killer fish, but it's also very, very, very clearly a play off the Jaws kind of storyline.
Yeah.
Where it's basically a guy learns about a problem, tells people there's a problem.
Well, in this situation, the guy creates the problem.
Well, that's true, too. He learns about a problem, informs people in higher power there's an issue, is denied, the problem breaks out and ends up, like, very publicly being an issue, and then he saves the day. Mm-hmm. That is the Jaws formula right there, and this film follows it to a T. So, not super creative, and I don't think I can give it, above a 4 for that reason. And like we said, it meets the 3 because, like, obviously, we get to see a bunch of piranhas tearing people apart, and we get to see it multiple times, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And, on top of just succeeding there, it also has a bunch of things that are just really well done. I think the practical effects, while limited at times, are very well done. There's some great underwater shots, a good amount of funny lines.
There are some stunts that we hadn't even touch on that are just absurd.
Decent acting overall, even from some of the kids.
Yeah.
Overall, a lot of good stuff in this film. But there's a couple issues that are really keeping me from giving it a 4 and only giving it a 3.5. What they really come down to is, some of my issues with that opening. I know that's a personal preference for me, so I'm not really going to take away a lot of points with it. But I think kind of the biggest issue here is it just feels, I don't know, how do I say this? Low stakes?
Oh, yeah. No, that's totally fair, and that's something we didn't really touch on. But yeah. But I think that's because, and I'm going to go back to it, we don't see anyone just get devoured like we do Jack.
And I think part of that is related to the fact that there's some weird incongruity with like how dangerous these piranhas are,
Mm-hmm.
but also the fact that we are in a river for most of the film and a lake. You can just get out of the water very easily.
Mm-hmm.
And being in the water is always optional. Like, the piranhas get the most of their kills when they surprise people.
Yeah.
And even then, people get out of the water really fast. And so, again, the whole film seems very low stakes. And it's just kind of also super straightforward. Like, the whole film is very plotted, kind of like a train on a track. Like, you know what's going to happen and when. And again, that lowers the stakes a lot. And so I think for a horror movie, and especially one with the amount of gore it has, it's just not as successful in the shock and the horror value because of
there's
that.
no shock. Because it's
Yeah.
like, yes, they're in the water. They're going to get eaten by piranhas.
And it's not a surprise either. It's not like,
No.
again, I go back to Jaws because, great water monster movie, but also it's what this film is kind of inspired by. But there's a lot of sequences where you don't know who's going to die,
Mm-hmm.
or if the shark's going to get this person or that person. And you can do that knowing the shark's there, but this film just doesn't pull it off with the piranha in the same way. Okay, on that note, I guess we're going to go to the outtakes now.
Yeah. We'll see you guys in a minute. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the outtake section for this episode of Beware the Board. I hope you're enjoying our review of Piranha so far. I like this film. I think it's super fun and very interesting. But if you do not want any spoilers from this outtake section, please skip to 1 hour, 17 minutes, and 55 seconds immediately. This first clip is me realizing I may have misjudged a few things before the start of the film. Oh, I'm way more scared than I thought I was going to be.
Yeah. I was like, why didn't you think this was going to be scary, Bob? It's an ocean. It's like water you can't see the bottom of.
This next clip is my reaction to one of the cold open kills. I hate that. That is awful.
Bob's like, I reconsider my opinion.
Oh my god! Ah! I don't like seeing it. Okay. Just, oh god. Thank you for getting drug into the water so I
Also,
don't have to see
because
you.
they're smaller, they can be in smaller bodies of water, like a pool.
This next clip is our reaction to seeing Dr. Hoke's lab for the very first time. This looks real cool, though.
No, it does.
Oh, what the fuck is that? I thought this movie was about piranhas?
There's a weird fish thing.
That looks so cool.
Yeah, old stop motion.
Whoa.
Yeah,
This is a cool movie.
Part of the fun of like big, like low budget production companies, like what New Line was, or New World, is they had all these props already, so it was really cheap to put together like a mad scientist scene like this.
This next clip is our reaction to seeing what the piranhas did to Jack. Oh, man. That's brutal, man. Just seeing his feet, no flesh, bone. God bless. That's fucked. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the outtakes. Do we have any announcements? Ben.
Nope.
You always say no, but we always do.
It's not an announcement. It's just the spiel. So no announcements. Our spiel, though, is Friday the 13th episodes are coming out. There's one that comes out tomorrow, and then one that comes out on Wednesday. So Saturday and Wednesdays until we're done with the series. So that's 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Probably. Aside from that, Friday episodes as usual. Outside of that, check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, some other interweb places. One of those is YouTube, which is kind of nice because we can see your interactions there. That means likes, subscriptions, and even your comments, which is really cool because that's one of the 2 places you can communicate with us at. You can do that in like our videos, comment down there, or you can go yell at Bob at Beware the Board and tell him it's all his fault that you freed some piranhas.
It's all oh no. It's all my fault that all these piranhas got out. Like Ben said, you can check us out at Twitter, at Beware the Board. It's where I post updates about the show, information about the show. Basically, if you want to know anything about the show, check us out there. On Mondays, I post a spoiler post for that Friday's episode, which is basically a hidden movie cover that you can reveal so you can see what it is, so you can watch the movie before we do. So whenever you listen to the episode, you don't get any spoilers. Or when we being really vague about stuff, you kind of know what we're talking about. Then on Fridays, or whenever an episode goes up, I post a link to the episode and sometimes a meme, depending on the episode, if something was funny enough for Ben to create something for it. So if you're interested in that, check us out on Twitter, @BewwareTheBoard. Last thing, check us out on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. TikTok is @BewwareTheBoard, and YouTube Shorts is just, our normal YouTube channel. So if you're interested in short-form content and you like the show, check us out there. We do clips from old episodes. I go back through and scrub old episodes for new content. Basically, if you're into that kind of thing, we put our content there. So check it out. I think that's it, Ben.
All right, guys. See you next time.
Yeah, see you next time.